I want you to picture something for a moment. Imagine there is a lever inside your body. It's not, a metaphorical lever. I want you to visualize a physical biochemical switch buried deep in your cellular machinery. And every single day, you have a choice. You can pull this lever or you can ignore it.
And the stakes of that choice, whether you pull it or not, are surprisingly high.
That is an understatement. If you pull the lever, you activate a mechanism that actively repairs damage to your DNA. You stabilize the genetic code itself.
Which is that sounds huge.
It is. You potentially reduce your risk of pancreatic cancer by double digits. You might even keep your brain from physically shrinking, losing volume as you get older.
It really does sound like science fiction, or at least like some, cutting-edge $1 million gene therapy that you'd read about in a tech journal.
Exactly. If I told you this was a new peptide discovered in a lab in Switzerland, people would be lining up to pay thousands of dollars for a monthly supply. Here's the catch. It's not a drug. It's not a peptide.
It's a mineral.
It's a mineral. It's the orphan of the nutrition world. We spend hours debating vitamin D. We take our omega-3s religiously, but this one, it's usually an afterthought.
We are talking about magnesium.
Magnesium. And here is the stat from our research stack that really made me pause and stare at the wall for a minute. We aren't just talking about a few people missing the mark here.
No, it's systemic.
We are looking at data suggesting that nearly 45% of the U.S. population, basically a coin flip for everyone listening right now, is walking around with a chronic inadequacy of this mineral.
And inadequacy is a polite word for it. When you actually look at the biological stakes, we're talking about a system-wide failure to perform maintenance. This isn't just about getting a Charlie horse in your calf muscle after a run.
That's the misconception we need to clear up right away. I think most people
Yeah.
hear magnesium and they think muscle cramps or maybe sleep aid.
Right. Or Epsom salt baths.
Yes, exactly. It's the thing you take an Epsom salt bath for.
Right, the cramp mineral. That is the popular branding.
But the mission for this deep dive is to shatter that limited view. We're going to unpack the science of magnesium, but we're going way beyond eat your spinach. We need to look at the mechanics of aging. We need to look at the triage theory, which is this terrifyingly logical way your body decides what to fix and what to let rot when resources are low.
Oh, that theory changes how you look at every meal you eat. It basically frames nutrition as a resource management game where the stakes are your long-term survival.
We'll absolutely get there. We're also going to look at brain volume, the connection to vitamin D that most doctors miss, and that drives me crazy. And we are going to have a very, very honest conversation about the supplement aisle.
The supplement aisle.
Yeah.
A minefield.
It is, because if you think buying the most expensive brain-specific magnesium is the answer, the data might upset you.
It's a classic case of marketing versus biochemistry, and we are going to navigate it.
So let's start at the beginning. I called this section the magnesium paradox in my notes, because on one hand, it is the workhorse of the human body. On the other hand, we seem chemically incapable of getting enough of it. Give us the technical reality here. How busy is magnesium, really?
Ideally, it's incredibly busy. If you look at the sheer volume of work it does, magnesium is a cofactor for about 300 different enzymes in the human body.
Okay, let's pause on that word cofactor. We hear it a lot in these studies. Cofactor this, cofactor that. What does it actually mean in a practical, mechanical sense?
Right. Think of an enzyme as a specialized machine or maybe a factory worker. Its job is to speed up a chemical reaction like building a protein, breaking down a toxin, or copying a strand of DNA.
So it's the catalyst.
It's the catalyst, exactly. The enzyme is there, it's ready to work.
Yeah.
But a cofactor is the ignition key, or maybe the tool in the worker's hand. Without the cofactor, without the magnesium ion sitting in the active site of that enzyme, the machine doesn't turn on. It just sits there, dormant.
So you can have all the enzymes you want, but without magnesium, they are essentially useless. They're just collecting dust.
Precisely. Now, critics or skeptics might look at the numbers and say, okay, the body has roughly 75,000 different enzymes. Magnesium is only required for 300 of them.
Right. That's what, like 0.4%? That sounds like a rounding error. Why does it matter?
Statistically, it sounds insignificant, less than 1%.
Yeah.
It does, until you look at what those 300 enzymes are doing.
Yeah.
They aren't sweeping the floors. These enzymes are the executives. They are responsible for the foundational processes of life.
So the really critical stuff.
The most critical. We are talking about DNA repair. We're talking about DNA replication, literally making new cells. We're talking about transcription reading your genetic code to create proteins.
So it's not about the quantity of jobs it holds, it's about the seniority of the jobs.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. If the janitor calls in sick, the company keeps running. If the CEO and the head of operations disappear, the company collapses.
And Magnesium is the CEO.
It's C-suite, for sure. If you don't have magnesium, the machinery that defines you and keeps your genetic code intact starts to stutter.
That's a disturbing image. Genetic stuttering. So we have this CEO-level mineral. How much of it do we actually need to keep the company running smoothly?
The recommended dietary allowance, or RDA, gives us some targets. For women, it's set at about 310 to 320 milligrams a day,
Okay.
and that bumps up to about 360 if you're pregnant. For men, it's higher, around 400 to 420 milligrams per day.
And those numbers assume you're just an average person.
Right.
Sitting at a desk, walking the dog, maybe doing some light gardening. What if you're training? What if you're hitting the sauna 3 times a week?
Then you have to pay what we call the athlete's tax.
The athlete's tax, I like that.
Magnesium is an electrolyte. It is lost through sweat and urine. So if you are training hard, or if you are a regular user of saunas, which is very popular right now for longevity benefits, you are actively dumping magnesium.
So you're just pouring it out.
You are.
Yeah.
You likely need 10 to 20% more than the RDA just to break even.
Wow. So a guy working out daily might need 500 milligrams just to stay baseline.
Easily. And that's just to maintain equilibrium, not to correct a deficiency that might already be there.
Okay, so those are the targets. Where is the average American actually landing?
Well, the reality check is pretty grim.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at large nutritional surveys like NHNE's, which is the big national health survey, the average U.S. intake is consistently falling short.
By how much?
Women are averaging about 230 milligrams, men are around 320. So we are missing the mark by a solid 20 to 30% across the board.
But here is the thing that always bugs me about RDAs. And I want you to keep me honest here, because I feel like this is a point of confusion for a lot of people. The RDA is basically the don't die number, isn't it?
That's it.
It's not the thrive number.
That is a critical distinction that gets lost in public health messaging. The RDA was established to prevent severe acute deficiency diseases. Scurvy, beriberi, things like that. It is the floor, not the ceiling.
The absolute bare minimum.
The bare minimum. If you are hitting the RDA, you are essentially running your body on the lowest setting required to keep the lights on. It doesn't mean you are optimized for longevity. It doesn't mean you are resilient against high stress.
Right.
It just means you aren't collapsing into a seizure or a heart arrhythmia right now.
So running on the RDA is like driving your car with the oil light flickering. It's running, but you are slowly grinding the gears.
That's a perfect analogy. You are doing damage, but it's slow. It's insidious. And remember, nearly half the country isn't even hitting the oil light number. They are driving with no oil.
Which is terrifying. So we have this massive gap. The obvious question is, why? We live in a world of abundant calories. I can get food anywhere, anytime. Why are we starving for this specific mineral? Is it just that we're all eating junk?
The junk food is a huge part of it, yes. But it goes deeper than that. We have a fundamental source problem. To understand where magnesium comes from, you have to look at biology. It's found in chlorophyll.
The pigment that makes plants green.
Correct. Magnesium is literally the central atom of the chlorophyll molecule. It sits in the center, just like iron sits in the center of hemoglobin in your blood.
I never knew that. So it's the heart of the plant's blood, in a way?
In a way, yes. So logically, the best sources are things that are green.
Yeah.
Dark leafy greens, spinach, kale, chard, but also things like legumes, nuts, seeds, brown rice, mackerel.
And the standard American diet is not green.
It's beige.
That
It's
beige.
highly processed. It's refined grains where the bran and germ, where the minerals live, have been stripped away.
White bread, pasta.
Sugars, industrial fats. None of these contain significant chlorophyll. We have systematically swapped the green for the beige in our food supply.
But I can hear the listener right now saying, okay, sure, most people eat trash. But I don't. I eat my spinach salads. I eat my oatmeal. I snack on almonds. There's another hurdle for the healthy eater, isn't there?
There is, and this is the bioavailability barrier. Yeah. Just because you put magnesium in your mouth doesn't mean it gets into your blood.
Right.
The net absorption of magnesium from dietary sources is roughly only 50%. And it can be even lower, depending on how you prepare that healthy food.
Okay, talk to us about phytates, because this feels like a betrayal. I'm eating the healthy food, but the food is fighting back.
In a way, yes. Plants don't really want you to digest their seeds and grains. They want those seeds to survive and grow. So they contain compounds called phytates, or phytic acid.
And what do they do?
Think of phytates as a chemical handcuff. They bind to minerals like magnesium and zinc in the gut, locking them up so your body can't absorb them.
So I could be eating a bowl of raw muesli, thinking I'm being virtuous, but the magnesium is handcuffed to a phytate and just passes right through me.
Exactly. You're getting the calories and the fiber, but not the full mineral payload. But, and this is the cool part, there is a key to unlock those handcuffs.
Okay.
It's an enzyme called phytase, and its job is to break that lock.
And how do we get the key? Do we have to buy it?
No, you just have to activate it. You can activate phytases by cooking your leafy greens. Steaming your spinach actually releases more magnesium than eating it raw because it breaks down the plant cell walls in those phytates.
Wow, okay. So cooked is better than raw for this?
For mineral absorption, yes. You can heat your oats. Or, and this is the gold standard for grains, you can sprout or germinate them.
Sprouting. I always thought that was just a crunchy, hippie trend. But you're saying it's actually biochemical liberation.
It is functional nutrition. By sprouting, soaking, or fermenting, like in sourdough bread, you degrade the phytates. You release the magnesium so your body can actually use it.
So that sourdough toast is actually giving you more minerals than a raw whole wheat slice might.
It could very well be, yes.
Yeah.
It's about making the nutrients accessible.
That's a great actionable tip. Cook the greens, sprout the grains, sourdough the bread. Now, before we get to supplements, we have to talk about what we're doing to actively sabotage ourselves. We're not just failing to eat it, we're actively throwing it away.
Right. We are leaking it. It's coming in the front door and going right out the back.
I've heard zinc is a competitor. How does that work?
It can be. Minerals use the same doorways or absorption pathways in the gut. It's a bottleneck. So if you flood the system with one mineral, the others can't get in.
They're all waiting in line for the same door.
Exactly. And if you are taking high doses of zinc, specifically greater than roughly 124 milligrams a day, it inhibits magnesium absorption.
That's a massive dose of zinc, though. Most supplements are, what, 30 milligrams?
Usually 15 to 30. But think about when people get sick. They feel a cold coming on, and they start popping zinc lozenges like candy. They might hit 100 milligrams easily in a day.
Ah, right. So the strategy is zinc is fine for a targeted strike against a cold, but don't live on high doses.
Exactly. It's an acute intervention, not a lifestyle staple. But speaking of lifestyle staples, we have to talk about happy hour.
Alcohol. I knew this is coming.
Alcohol is a major magnesium thief. It acts as a diuretic, which we all know, but specifically, it blocks the hormones that tell your kidneys to recycle water. So you just flush fluids.
And the minerals go with the fluid.
And magnesium gets flushed right along with it. It speeds up the exit velocity of your minerals before they can even be properly absorbed and stored.
So you're drinking a fluid that actively dehydrates you and strips your mineral reserves. Wonderful.
It's a double whammy. And it's not just alcohol. Certain health conditions do this too. Diabetes is a big one. High blood sugar acts as an osmotic diuretic.
Meaning?
It forces the kidneys to excrete more urine to get rid of the excess sugar, and the magnesium goes with it. So if you are diabetic or pre-diabetic, your requirement just to stay baseline is higher than everyone else's.
This brings us to a really frustrating practical problem. Let's say I'm listening to this. I enjoy a glass of wine. I don't eat enough sprouted kale, and I'm stressed. I'm thinking I must be deficient.
A very logical conclusion.
So the logical, responsible next step is to go to my doctor and say, hey, doc, run a panel, check my magnesium.
And your doctor will likely say yes. They'll draw your blood, send it to the lab, and a few days later, you'll get a result that says your magnesium levels are normal.
And I'll go home thinking I'm fine. Look, the paper says I'm in range. I'll feel relieved.
And you would likely be wrong. This is what we call the testing trap.
Explain the trap. How can the blood test be lying?
It's not lying, it's just measuring the wrong thing. It's a biological trick your body plays to keep you alive. Your body prioritizes the level of magnesium in your blood, your plasma, above everything else.
Above all else.
It keeps that number in a tiny, strict range, usually 0.7 to 1 millimolar per liter. It's non-negotiable.
Why is it so strict? What happens if it drops?
Because magnesium is an electrolyte. If it drops too low, your heart stops. You get fatal arrhythmias. The electrical signaling in your heart depends on it. So the body will fight to the death to keep that blood number stable.
Okay, but if I'm not eating enough magnesium, where is the body getting it from to keep the blood levels up? It can't conjure it out of thin air.
It steals it. It robs Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
You have to realize that less than 1% of the total magnesium in your body is actually in your blood.
Less than 1%. That's nothing.
It's just what's in transit. The vast majority, roughly 60%, is stored in your skeleton, your bones. Another 27% is in your muscles. Your bones are essentially a magnesium bank vault.
I think I see where this is going and I don't like it.
If your dietary intake drops, your body senses that blood levels are about to dip. That's a red alert. To prevent the heart from stopping, it sends a hormonal signal to the bones. It unlocks the vault.
And it just takes it.
It starts leaching magnesium out of your skeleton and dumping it into the blood to maintain that critical level.
Wow. So you are literally dissolving your own skeleton to keep your heart beating.
That is exactly what is happening. You can have a perfectly normal blood test because your body is strip mining your bones to keep that number pretty for the doctor. Meanwhile, your bones are becoming brittle, your cells are starving, and you have a severe total body deficiency.
That changes everything about how we interpret those labs. If the blood test is normal, it basically just means you aren't about to die right this second.
That's all it tells you.
Tells you nothing about your reserves.
Correct. Serum magnesium is a terrible marker for nutritional status. It's like checking your bank balance by looking at the cash in your wallet while your savings account is being drained to zero.
So what's the alternative? If I can't trust the standard test, what do I do?
There isn't a perfect test, unfortunately. You can ask for a red blood cell magnesium test, an RBC magnesium test. It looks inside the cell, so it's slightly better, not quite as subject to that homeostatic masking. But honestly,
What?
the most scientifically accurate method is the most tedious one.
Don't tell me I have to count calories.
You have to count milligrams. You have to audit your diet. Take a week. Use an app or the USDA food data online. Log what you eat. If you aren't hitting that 400 milligram target through food, and be honest about the junk, you are likely deficient.
The math doesn't align.
Math doesn't lie. Blood tests can.
That is a hard truth. But I guess if you're dissolving your bones, you want to know about it. So, given how hard it is to get 400 milligrams from food, unless you're eating pounds of spinach every day, supplements seem like the obvious bridge.
They're a very useful tool, yes, when used correctly.
But the supplement aisle it's a nightmare. You stand there and see citrate, glycinate, oxide, threonate, taurate. It's like a chemistry exam. Let's clean this up. First, safety. Can I kill myself with magnesium pills?
It's very hard to do, but you can definitely make yourself miserable. The upper safe limit for supplements is set at 350 milligrams per day.
Okay.
Note that food has no limit. You can't overdose on kale. But with pills, if you take too much, or importantly, if you take it all at once, your body can't absorb it fast enough. It stays in the gut.
And water follows minerals. I remember that from high school biology.
Osmosis kicks in. It draws water into the colon. The result is the famous disaster pants, diarrhea.
Right. So the strategy isn't just take a pill, it's how you take the pill.
Split the dose. That is the golden rule. Do not take 400 milligrams in one swallow. Break it up. Take 150 in the morning, 150 at night. You maximize absorption, and you save yourself from the bathroom trips.
Okay, split the dose. That's a huge takeaway. Now let's name names on the forms. I see magnesium oxide everywhere. It's usually the cheapest one on the shelf.
And it is cheap for a reason.
Yeah.
It is an inorganic salt. It's basically a rock. The bioavailability is terrible. Some studies say as low as 4% absorption.
4%?
4, because it's not absorbed, it stays in the gut and causes the most diarrhea. If you are trying to boost your cellular levels, avoid oxide. It's useless for anything other than constipation relief.
So what are we looking for on the label?
You want organic salts. This means the magnesium is bound to an organic molecule, like an amino acid, that your body recognizes and absorbs easily.
So things like...
Look for magnesium glycinate, malat, or taurate. Those are the big three.
And these have bonus features, right? They're not just magnesium.
They do. With magnesium glycinate, you're getting glycine. Glycine is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. It's calming. It helps with sleep. So glycinate is great for the evening.
Okay, glycinate for night.
Malate is bound to malic acid, which is involved in the Krebs cycle for energy production. So malat is great for the morning to help with energy.
That's a pro tip right there. Malat for energy, glycinate for sleep. Now, we have to address the elephant in the room, or maybe the brain in the room. Magnesium threonate.
Ah, threonate. The shiny new object.
If you listen to health podcasts, you hear about this stuff. It is marketed heavily as the only magnesium that can cross the blood-brain barrier. It's expensive, it's hyped. Is it a miracle, or is it marketing?
It is a classic case of marketing getting way, way ahead of the science. We need to do a reality check here. The claim is that threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier better than others and improves cognition.
And does it? I mean, that's the million-dollar question.
In mice, yes. The animal studies were promising. They showed reduced amyloid plaques, better memory. But humans are not giant mice. When we look at the human studies, the water gets very murky.
How so?
First of all, most of the studies are industry funded by the patent holders.
That's always a red flag, a big one.
Huge red flag. But let's look at the data. There was this 2016 study, small sample size, only 44 people. They found no significant increase in red blood cell magnesium compared to placebo.
Wait, so it didn't even raise magnesium levels in the body?
Not significantly in the blood cells, no. And the cognitive benefits they claimed. They only appeared when the researchers pooled the data from different tests together.
Pooling data, that sounds like statistical gymnastics to find a result.
It usually is. If the direct result isn't significant, you start combining categories until you find a p-value that looks good. Then there was another study in 2022. Participants took Threonate and showed cognitive improvement. Great, right?
I sense a but coming. A very large one.
A very large one. They took Threonate plus vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B6, and phosphatidylserine.
Whoa, that's a cocktail. That's not a magnesium study. How can you tell what did what?
Exactly, you can't. How do you know it wasn't the B6 or the phosphatidylserine helping the brain? You don't. It's impossible to isolate the cause. But here is the most critical warning about Threonate nobody talks about: the capsule size.
What do you mean?
Threonate is a huge molecule. The amount of elemental magnesium, the actual mineral you want per capsule, is tiny.
So you're swallowing a lot of threonate and very little magnesium.
Yes. If you follow the bottle instructions, you might only be getting 140 milligrams of actual magnesium. If you rely on Threonate to hit your daily targets of 400 milligrams, you will be massively deficient.
So if you want to take it for a potential brain boost, fine, it probably won't hurt. But don't let the fancy label fool you into thinking you've covered your nutritional basis.
Precisely. You must still take a standard magnesium supplement like glycinate for the rest of your body. Think of Threonate as a luxury add-on, not the foundation.
That is a huge buyer beware. Thank you for that. Okay, let's pivot. We've established we're deficient. We know how to test or not test, and we know what to take. But why does this deficiency actually matter day to day? I want to talk about stress. We all feel it. But biologically, there is a vicious loop happening between stress and magnesium, isn't there?
There is, and it explains why stressful periods, a divorce, a crunch time at work, leave us feeling physically depleted. It comes down to the fight or flight mechanism.
Walk us through the mechanism. My boss yells at me. What happens inside my body?
When you are stressed, your brain perceives a threat. It signals the adrenal glands to release adrenaline and cortisol. These hormones have a job. Mobilize energy for immediate action. You need to run from the tiger.
Or from my boss.
Right. To create that energy ATP, your body pulls magnesium out of the cells and dumps it into the blood to fuel the reaction.
So stress literally kicks magnesium out of its home in the cell.
Yes. It mobilizes it for battle. But here is the problem. You aren't actually running from a tiger. You are sitting in traffic. You're at your desk. You don't use up that mobilized energy in muscle contraction.
Right, it has nowhere to go.
So now you have excess magnesium floating in the blood. The kidneys filter the blood, see the excess, and say, whoops, too much of this, and they excrete it, you pee it out.
So stress causes you to waste magnesium through your urine.
Exactly. And this creates the loop. Magnesium is what helps calm the nervous system. As your levels drop, your body becomes less resilient to stress. You react more strongly to smaller triggers.
You get more jumpy.
That releases more adrenaline, which dumps more magnesium. It is a downward spiral. The more stressed you are, the more magnesium you lose, which makes you more stressed.
That explains so much. But do we have data on this? Is it just theoretical?
Oh, we have data. There was a fascinating study done on paratroopers.
Military paratroopers, that's about as high stress as it gets.
It is. They measured their magnesium levels while they were anticipating a conflict or a jump. Over a 3-month period, their magnesium levels dropped significantly. And this was just from the anticipation.
Just from the worrying.
The psychological stress alone was enough to drain their reserves.
So you don't even have to be in the fight. Worrying about the fight is enough to deplete you.
Correct. We see it in students, too. During exam periods, urinary magnesium goes up. They're literally flushing their nutrients down the toilet because of anxiety.
That is wild. And there was one other study in the notes about noise pollution that I found hard to believe.
The noise study. This one is startling for anyone living in a city. Researchers exposed people to loud noises and measured magnesium excretion. They found that the stress response from the noise caused magnesium loss that lasted for 2 days after the noise stopped.
2 days. So if you live near a construction site or a busy highway, you are in a chronic state of magnesium depletion just from the sound environment.
It suggests that, yes, environmental stress counts. Your body doesn't know the difference between a loud truck and a predator. It just reacts.
This feels like it connects perfectly to the next topic, which is aging. If we're constantly in this state of depletion stress, noise, bad food, what is the long-term cost? You mentioned the triage theory earlier. This is Dr. Bruce Ames' work, right?
Yes, Dr. Bruce Ames. He is a legend in biochemistry. This theory is profound because it explains why we age the way we do.
Or be it down for us, what is triage in this context?
Well, think about medical triage on a battlefield. You have limited doctors and supplies. You have 3 wounded soldiers. One is screaming with a broken finger. One has a deep cut. One has a bleeding artery. Who do you treat first?
The bleeding artery, the life-threatening wound.
Exactly. Immediate survival takes precedence over long-term comfort. The broken finger gets ignored because you're trying to stop the immediate threat. The body does the exact same thing with micronutrients like magnesium. When it's scarce, the body has to make a choice. It rations it. It has priorities. Priority number 1 is immediate survival.
So things like
Keeping the heart beating, keeping the mitochondria making ATP so you can move, the things that will kill you in the next 5 minutes if they stop.
And what gets sacrificed? What's the broken finger in this analogy?
Long-term maintenance, specifically DNA repair.
So if I'm short on magnesium, my body says, forget fixing the typos in the DNA code. We need to keep the heart pumping right now.
That is the trade-off. And the consequence is that you might feel fine today. You aren't dying. But your body has stopped repairing the daily damage to your DNA to save magnesium for energy. Dr. Ames calls this insidious damage. It accumulates silently over decades.
And that accumulation of unrepaired DNA, that is what we call aging.
It's a major component of aging and eventually cancer. Magnesium is essential for DNA polymerization. These are the enzymes, the workhorses, that copy your DNA when cells divide. If they don't have magnesium, they make errors. They get sloppy.
Mutations.
Mutations increase. And that's the seed of cancer.
Is there data linking this specific mechanism to cancer rates in humans?
There is observational data that is quite stark. Let's look at pancreatic cancer, which is notoriously deadly. One study found that for every 100 milligram per day decrease in magnesium intake, pancreatic cancer incidence increased by 24%.
That is a massive correlation. 24% for just a 100 milligram drop. That's the difference between a handful of almonds and no almonds.
It is significant.
Right.
And when we look at all-cause mortality deaths from any cause, higher dietary magnesium is linked to a 40 to 50% lower mortality rate in some observational studies.
Now, we have to be careful with observational studies, right? People who eat more magnesium usually eat more veggies, so they are healthier generally.
Absolutely. You can't separate the magnesium entirely from the lifestyle. That's a crucial caveat. But the mechanistic link, the fact that we know magnesium is required for DNA repair, makes that correlation very plausible. It's not just a random association.
It makes sense. If you stop repairing the car, eventually it breaks down. The triage theory basically says we're driving cars that we haven't taken to the mechanic in 20 years because we didn't want to pay for the oil.
A perfect metaphor. We are deferring maintenance to pay for today's gas. And eventually the engine seizes.
Let's move upstairs to the brain. We talked about the 3-NIT hype, but does magnesium itself, just good old dietary magnesium, help the brain?
Absolutely. The structural evidence is compelling. There was a huge study from the UK Biobank involving over 6,000 people. They scanned their brains and tracked their diet.
And what do they find?
They found that higher magnesium intake, around 550 milligrams a day, was linked to larger gray matter volume and larger hippocampal volume.
The hippocampus is the memory center. It's the part that shrinks in Alzheimer's.
Yes. And the difference in volume between the high intake and average intake groups was equivalent to having a brain that was 1 year younger.
I'll take a year back on my brain, absolutely. But how is it doing that? Is it just blood flow?
It's partially blood flow, but there is a specific and really cool mechanism involving something called excitotoxicity.
Excitotoxicity, that sounds intense.
It is. Your brain cells communicate using chemicals. One of the main ones is glutamate. Glutamate is excitatory. It screams fire to the neuron. It gets it excited.
Okay.
But you need to control that screaming. There is a receptor on the neuron called the NMDA receptor. Think of it like a door.
A door for the glutamate.
Exactly. Magnesium sits right in the doorway. It acts as a guard or a gatekeeper. It prevents the door from opening too easily. It keeps the noise down.
So it keeps the neurons calm. It's a natural chill pill for the brain.
A very good way to put it. Now, if you are magnesium deficient, the guard leaves the post. The door flies open, glutamate floods in, the neuron gets overexcited, it fires and fires until it literally burns out and dies. That is excitotoxicity.
So magnesium prevents your brain cells from shouting themselves to death.
That is a great way to put it. It preserves the neurons by regulating the traffic and preventing burnout.
This connects to something else I wanted to ask about. Migraines. I know so many people suffer from them, and I've heard magnesium is the go-to recommendation. Is that related to this electrical firing?
It is. Migraines are complex, but one leading theory involves something called cortical spreading depression. Imagine a wave of electrical silence, like a blackout, that spreads across the cortex of the brain. This is often associated with the aura people see.
And magnesium stops the wave.
It helps prevent it. It stabilizes the nerve membranes so that wave can't get started. It also blocks pain signals, specifically a neurotransmitter called substance P.
Is there good proof for this, or is it anecdotal?
This is one of the few areas where the evidence from clinical trials is actually quite strong. There are 5 randomized controlled trials suggesting benefits. But, and this is key, the effective dose in these studies is high, around 600 milligrams per day.
600 milligrams, that's way over the 350 safe limit for supplements we talked about earlier. That sounds like a recipe for, well, disaster pants.
It is, if you take it wrong, which is why the protocol matters so much.
Right.
You cannot take 600 milligrams at once. You must divide it into smaller doses, like 200 milligrams 3 times a day, and use a form like glycinate that is easier on the gut.
Ah, so it's about strategy.
For migraine sufferers, that high divided dose can be a game changer, but you have to respect the biology of absorption.
That is really specific, actionable advice. Split the dose to save your gut and save your head. Now let's talk about sleep. This is where I feel like everyone recommends magnesium. Take it before bed, you'll sleep like a baby. Is that true?
The science here is mixed, and I know that disappoints people.
Really? I thought that was a slam dunk.
Observational studies say yes, people with high magnesium intake sleep better. But when we do randomized controlled trials, RCTs, where we give people pills and measure their sleep with, trackers and things, the results are often weak or statistically insignificant.
Why the disconnect? If it relaxes neurons, shouldn't it help sleep?
It goes back to the baseline. Most nutrition studies are flawed because they don't screen for deficiency first. If you take a room full of people who already have great magnesium levels and give them more magnesium, it won't help their sleep.
You can't top off a tank that's already full.
Exactly. So the studies are diluted with people who are never going to benefit. It only helps if the reason you aren't sleeping is because you are deficient.
So if you have restless legs or muscle tension or high cortisol due to deficiency, magnesium will likely help you sleep.
Correct. But if your insomnia is caused by scrolling TikTok until 2 a.m. or because you have sleep apnea, magnesium won't fix it. It's worth a try, given the safety profile, but just lower your expectations if you aren't deficient.
Fair enough. It's not a sedative, it's a normalizer. Let's circle back to the bones. We talked about the bone reservoir where the body steals magnesium. But what happens to the bones when they get robbed for 50 years straight?
Osteoporosis. We often think of osteoporosis as a calcium issue. We tell old ladies to drink milk. But it is just as much a magnesium issue. It is the result of a lifelong stripping of magnesium from the bones to keep the blood levels stable.
So grandma breaking her hip isn't just about what she ate last year. It's about the magnesium she didn't eat when she was 30.
Precisely. It's a long-term bankruptcy. And there is a critical window for this. Pre-adolescence and puberty. Getting enough magnesium then builds the bank. It builds up the reserves in the bone vault.
So what you do as a kid determines your bone strength at 80.
If you invest early, you have more to draw on later. So parents, take note. Get the kids eating almonds and greens.
Absolutely. Now, there is a connection here to vitamin D that blew my mind in the research note.
The vitamin D synergy. This is huge. And so many doctors miss this. We see so many people take massive doses of vitamin D, like 50,000 IUs a week, because their blood levels are low. But the levels don't budge.
And they get labeled non-responders.
Right. But why? Because magnesium is required for the enzymes that metabolize vitamin D into its active form. The vitamin D you take in a supplement is inactive. It has to be converted by your liver and kidneys.
And that conversion machinery needs magnesium to run.
It's the fuel. So you can take all the vitamin D pills you want, but if you don't have magnesium...
Your body cannot turn the key.
Exactly. You essentially have vitamin D resistance. The vitamin D just piles up in the inactive form and gets excreted. We see patients who correct their magnesium, and suddenly their vitamin D levels shoot up without taking any more vitamin D.
That is a massive aha moment. If your vitamin D is chronically low despite supplementation, check your magnesium first.
It's a catch-22 that creates a lot of confusion in blood work. Fix the magnesium, and the vitamin D often fixes itself.
We are in the home stretch here. Let's touch on heart health and muscles. Blood pressure is a silent killer. Does magnesium move the needle?
It does. It works via vasodilation. Magnesium helps the endothelial cells, the lining of your blood vessels, release nitric oxide and prostacyclin.
And those chemicals do what?
They tell the smooth muscle in the blood vessels to relax and open up.
Wider pipes mean lower pressure.
Exactly. A meta-analysis of 34 trials showed that roughly 368 milligrams a day significantly lowers both systolic and diastolic blood pressure.
And again, this links to the brain, right? It's not just about the heart.
It does.
Yeah.
Everything is connected. High blood pressure in your 20s and 30s is a major predictor of dementia in your 60s.
Yeah.
By using magnesium to manage blood pressure early, you are protecting your brain decades down the line.
Finally, let's hit a rapid-fire myth. Epsom salts. I love a good bath. Am I absorbing magnesium through my skin and fixing my deficiency?
I hate to be the bearer of bad news on this one.
Oh, no.
The scientific verdict is probably not in significant amounts. The skin is a very good barrier.
You're breaking my heart. I feel so relaxed after a bath, though.
And that relaxation is real. But it's likely the warm water and just the psychological benefit of taking time for yourself. Magnesium sulfate, which is what Epsom salts are, just doesn't permeate the skin layer very well to get into the bloodstream.
So there's no proof it actually raises my levels.
No solid proof. However, if the warm bath relaxes you, reduces your cortisol, and makes you feel better, do it. It's beneficial. Just don't count on it to fix a nutritional deficiency.
Okay, so keep the bath, but swallow the capsule too.
Exactly. Treat the bath as therapy, not nutrition.
So let's bring this all home. We've covered a ton of ground. We've gone from the enzymes in our DNA to the bones dissolving in our bodies to the hype in the supplement aisle. What is the synthesis here?
The synthesis is that nutrition isn't one size fits all, but this deficiency is a widespread, invisible crisis. And you can't rely on standard tests. So don't wait for a doctor to tell you you're deficient because the test is rigged by your own biology.
Right. Assume you need to pay attention to this, take ownership of it.
Yes. The key actions are simple, really. Eat dark greens. Activate your phytuses by cooking or sprouting your grains and nuts. Watch the alcohol and the stress because they're actively robbing you.
And if you supplement, be smart.
Be smart. Split the dose. Use an organic form like glycinate or malate.
And don't bank on the fancy, expensive brain magnesium to cover your daily needs.
Correct. Use the workhorses for the workhorse mineral.
I want to leave everyone with a thought based on that triage theory. If Dr. Ames is right, and our bodies are constantly making these trade-offs, sacrificing the long term for the short term, it begs the question, how many diseases that we just accept as getting old, like frailty, memory loss, and even cancer, are actually just the receipt coming due for decades of invisible nutrient deficiencies?
That is the provocative question. Are we dying of old age, or are we dying of a shortage of parts that we failed to maintain?
Something to chew on while you eat your salad. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Stay curious.
We'll see you on the next one.